from WBNE.
Howdy, yokes, and welcome back to Bacon and Eggs. I'm Tyler Carlin.
And I'm Ethan Chill.
And today is Monday.
And this is Bacon and Eggs.
So fix up your shrimp boat.
And become Captain America.
Because today we're bringing you
the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I'm gonna get out of bed and start my day. Cook up a breakfast of bacon and eggs. I won't check my phone till after my coffee. And
This week we're talking about episode 5. It's called Truth. It was directed by Carrie Skoglund. Came out on April 16th, 2021, which is 2 days ago. Got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And because I feel like we got some criticism for not bringing this perspective, we are joined this week by Army officer, dear friend of the show, and host of the Unsobered podcast, which is a WBNE podcast that you probably really like, Julia Kendall.
Hi.
Welcome to the show, Julia.
Thank you. I feel like half the criticism came from me.
No.
Maybe it did.
No.
Oh, it didn't?
No.
Because I know, it didn't? Because I definitely, have corrected you guys a couple of times.
Yeah, correcting us and the criticism we received.
We did upset some people. And I would just, first of all, like to apologize to individual members of the U.S. military that were upset by my statements, specifically in the last episode. I'm not a particularly pro-military person. I've not really made that quiet. They've done some pretty horrible things to members of my family and friends of mine. However, any criticism that I have made toward the U.S. military should be taken as criticism of the institution and not the people. I understand what following orders are. I understand what it's like. I don't understand what it's like to be in a war zone at all, obviously. And these are hard choices made by complicated individuals, but my criticisms are specifically of the enterprise.
The military
capital
complex.
U, capital S, capital M.
Yeah, the military complex. No, and I think that there are valid criticisms of the military complex, and so do the people in charge of the military right now. So we relatively recently got a new Sergeant Major of the Army who is very pro-change.
That's cool.
To an extent. He's also, it's hard for me to tell, and I'm a white person, and also I've never seen him in person. I've only seen his picture on Twitter and hanging up. He is half white, half black. So especially when Black Lives Matter started happening, him, and then there are a lot more people of color and women in top leadership roles now, and the military changes slowly. I can't emphasize that enough. It is a government entity, but they are trying to change. What is preventing that change is the culture, not the leadership necessarily. So things like mental health are supposed to be taken a lot more seriously now. For example, you might have lost your clearance and or your job just by going to seek help for PTSD, depression, anxiety. Now, the only stipulation is if you're forced to go to therapy, you could lose your clearance. If a court mandates you to go to therapy, that's where the issue is, not me going. I just got diagnosed with ADHD, and I had I checked, and I'm hey, if I take this medication, and I go to therapy, is that an issue? And they're just don't abuse it. I'm oh, cool. And that's new. That's new within the last couple of years. Because I remember, when I joined, I've been in almost 13 years now. When I first came in, if you even went to mental health to go see a therapist, you were done. Your career was over. So
That's a lot of insight.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We start the episode...
Boy, they had some things to say in this one.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So let's go from the top. They have that fight scene where Bucky and Sam approach John and they're like, "Hey man, you really screwed up. We want to help you through this, but you really screwed up. Also, give me the shield." And then he's like, "You don't want to do this." And Bucky's like, "Yes, I do. I've been waiting for this one."
He's been waiting to hit John Walker since the end of episode 1. He's I just want to punch this guy in the face.
There were several. Sorry, go ahead.
I know there's some commentary here, but the fact that Bucky can't just wreck John Walker's face. He's so new to the super soldier serum. Bucky's been doing it for like 100 years. Bucky's also got a vibranium arm. I don't know. In my mind, Bucky wins that fight 10 times out of 10.
I mean, the writing would say otherwise.
I know the writing is what it comes down to, although I think that's actually like my least favorite hot take in the comic community recently was that video of Stan Lee servicing being like, yeah, it's the writer who determines who wins each fight. It's like, okay, now you're ruining the fun conversation superhero fans have.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between having the fun conversation of who would win in a fight versus some of the comic book like the comic book boys who I sometimes want to punch in the face, who are like, no, you're wrong. Like, and you're just like pointing out, hey, like this person won this fight because the writer wanted them to. It's not that deep. Like, have fun with it. Yeah, but some people take it too far.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. There, especially, this came up a lot regarding WandaVision when folks were like, Wanda could kill anybody in the Avengers if she wanted to. And people were like, no way, she's a pussy. She couldn't do anything. No chance. And it's just like, yeah, you got to remember at some point, like somebody with a pen gets to be like, and Wanda Maximoff kicked his ass. And then you'd have to deal with it, right? Like that's
right. So
like I definitely I think that the Stan Lee video was neither helpful nor hurtful. Like I definitely see where it comes from. With people being like, yeah, well, XYZ, and then they could just be like, hey, there are humans attached to this outside. Like people can just decide things.
Well, and that's kind of like it is a shift from like the way I think about Star Wars. Like I don't think there can be like a bad Star Wars movie because in my mind it's just a retelling of what happened. Like it's not somebody just penning these characters. This happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So if I don't like it, that's not really up to me, right? Because it's just the true history. But with comic books, I feel much more like, yeah, people write this. People are attached to this. It has narrative. It has real world implications.
That's the thing with Bucky Barnes and John Walker is Bucky Barnes is not a killer.
Not by nature.
No, the Winter Soldier.
The Winter Soldier is. Yeah. He specifically makes that dichotomy during this episode that like, that guy's not me, right? John Walker, on the other hand, is a trained
slaughterer.
Yeah, like regardless of what the people that he hurt and for what reasons, like that dude clearly does not shy away from the fight, right? So when he gets the super soldier serum, that turns him into it amplifies him, right? It turns him into more of this person.
Well, and like he shows multiple times in that fight that he's ready to kill again. I mean, he has the moment where he raises his shield, but he does kill in that fight. Like he pulls the wings off of the Falcon, killing that hero forever.
Permanently, yeah.
Like if it comes back, it will be as a different character. So that was powerful. And I thought the fight was very well choreographed, very well shot, very well done. I loved everything about it.
The thing with Marvel specifically is these fight scenes are pushing the story forward. They're not just fight scenes. They're like not just fight scenes for the sake of fight scenes. So you have...
Right, it's not the Snyder Cut.
I have not seen it, and I do not plan to.
I haven't either, but I understand that's basically the whole premise of the movie is that it's just fight scenes for fight scenes' sake.
Yeah. So Marvel is pushing this narrative forward. So you have Bucky not going in for the kill, which is showing his pulling away from that Winter Soldier identity even more. Mm-hmm. You have John Walker stripping the Falcon of his wings, and then you have him going for the kill shot for the Falcon, Sam. And then you have the shield going back to the rightful owner.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of really good moments where you see you see Bucky with the shield, and you're like, "Oh, I could be down with this big time."
But it's never him, right? It was never.
It's never going to be him because why would he need the shield on his left arm when he's already got the vibranium arm?
Yeah. Well, and then like even before that scene, you see John Walker running, right? He knows that he did something wrong because, spoiler alert, you're not allowed to just kill people in the street, regardless of what they have done.
Right.
You can't. I got
Well, that
into
guy also didn't do the crime that John
Anything.
continues
It didn't.
to, yeah.
Correct. But even if he did, even if Nico had been the one to kill Lamar Hoskins, you can't just kill a non-combatant in the street. And this is a fight I got onto on TikTok a lot because I went through, because a lot of people were comparing John Walker to the police brutality, which is a fair comparison. I do believe that was the comparison that was supposed to be made.
Yeah.
However, John Walker is a captain in the United States Army. We have different rules. We have rules of engagement. We have the Geneva Convention. We have laws and orders that we have to follow. He was there without permission. In that, they mentioned that in episode 4, he was there without permission, and he killed a non-combatant in the street. It doesn't matter if that non-combatant is a terrorist. You can't just kill them.
Well, that's the same is true for police, right? You can't just pull
you can't
somebody
just
over
shoot
for no
guilty
reason
people.
and then kill
Yeah.
them.
Correct. But in the military complex, they take it a little bit more serious, just a little bit more seriously than the police departments
I mean,
do.
not really. John Walker does walk after this.
So-
he loses his job, but he goes free.
Okay, so let me explain what happened. So generally, he didn't get a court-martial, which is weird. He should have gotten a court-martial. And they say, hey, we did you a favor by not giving you a court-martial.
Well, and
Even
that's the
though-
commentary.
Yeah,
Right?
he didn't get this court-martial. I would argue that he wanted a court-martial because a court-martial is a trial. So I think some people just don't understand a court-martial. You can go through a court-martial and be found not guilty. It's just a military trial.
Just like an impeachment.
Correct. However, if he had gone through a court-martial, he would have been in jail. Because going through that court-martial, and he should have because of his rank. So in the military, anything over E7 or above is an automatic court-martial for anything, right? But if you're an E6 or below, you can do what they call a non-judicial punishment, or NJP, which is, they kind of did a mock of both in this Senate hearing. Is that what this was? I couldn't quite figure that out.
It was a Senate hearing.
Yeah. And, that's probably because he was Captain America, right? That's the reason why he got the punishments he did, versus if he had gone to a court-martial where he would have been able to present his case and present evidence and have a lawyer, which I think that's what he wanted. But any smart person would have been like, oh, that's going to be worse for me, because that's how you get a dishonorable discharge. That's how you get put in Leavenworth. And I think some people don't understand the implication of them saying, you're stripped of your title, you're stripped of your rank, you're stripped of all benefits. That also means he's stripped of his accolades. So he no longer has those medals of honor. They've stripped.
Well, he does.
No, he doesn't. No,
I mean, he owns the medals themselves.
Right, but you don't get he no longer has them.
Sure,
he's never
yeah.
been given them. And there's benefits when you're a Medal of Honor winner. You get an extra 10% of your retirement, and you get there's there's benefits to being a Medal of Honor winner, because it is very hard to receive a Medal of Honor, much less 2, much less 3. So the last person to get a second Medal of Honor was in 1918.
Yeah, I mean, John Walker is an impossibly successful veteran.
He's quote
or
unquote
former veteran.
Well, he was still active duty at the time.
Well, whatever.
He's quote unquote the perfect officer, and unfortunately, they're not the Army does see people like him. He was a West Pointer. We have thoughts about West Pointers in the military. His father probably went to West Point as well. He seems like one of those people. He's a very privileged white officer who didn't have to really work hard, and his personality and his privilege got him to where he is. I can almost guarantee it. But he was definitely a top blocker the entire time he was in the military.
It was definitely his privilege that got him to where he is. And the fact still remains, it doesn't matter if he was court-martialed or not. He killed somebody in the street, and the only thing that happens is he loses his job, which is 100% the commentary. He gets to walk free. He gets to get on planes and fly to see the family of Lamar. He gets to go.
He gets to
meet
lie
with
to
people.
Lamar's family.
He gets to lie to Lamar's family. He also, like,
Yep.
I the way I kept thinking about it was if the roles were reversed, right? And Captain America was killed in there, and Lamar killed somebody in the street. A black man killed somebody in the street.
Not just
He wouldn't even get the court martial. He would just die. Like, they would just kill him.
not even just a black man. Like, yes, the commentary is there between a black man and a white man in the military. Lamar's enlisted. So you also have
Right.
the commentary of the enlisted versus the officer. And that also makes you treated differently in the military. I've been both, right? And I've had the same exact officer, right? So I went from enlisted, joined ROTC because I ran out of money for college on my GI Bill, and went through ROTC and became an officer. And during this transition, I was in the same battalion, right? And I dealt with a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
And I dealt with this major who treated me like when I was an NCO. And then the next year, when I was a cadet, like getting ready to be an officer, completely switched and wanted to mentor me. And I just was like, you know that we've met before and you treated me like crap because I was enlisted. So there is a difference with how enlisted and officers get treated as well as black soldiers and white soldiers or soldiers of color. Because it's not just black soldiers who get treated differently. It is your Latino, anybody who is not white.
Right. As we saw in the state of Virginia a week ago.
I have thoughts on that situation. I'm mad about it because the discourse within the military community is ridiculous over that situation. And the demeanor of the cop changed when he found out he was an officer, not enlisted.
Yeah.
And like if one thing should have protected that young officer, because he's a second lieutenant, so he's a young officer. He was probably coming back from his BOLIC, so his basic officer leadership course, to go to his first duty station. I have a feeling that's what he was doing, because he had his dog in the crate and everything. I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me. If anything should have protected him, that uniform should have protected him, and it didn't. And it's not even protecting
fucking
him.
Disagreed, but sure.
Respect for your fellow human being
Yeah.
should have protected him.
No, I completely agree with that. Like, I do completely agree that that situation shouldn't have happened, whether he was in uniform or not. Yeah. But, like, we know what the situation in this country is. Like, just being completely honest, we know that being a black man being pulled over is dangerous.
Yeah.
For you. And the thought for me was, knowing that situation, him being in uniform should have done something else, and it didn't. And I guess, and then seeing the reactions from the military, a specific part of the military community, where they think that was justified because he pulled into a gas station at night, is appalling. Appalling to me. And I'm over here getting into fucking arguments. Sorry, I'm getting into arguments with people on Facebook, like, because I'm in several like military officers groups and other military groups, just getting into arguments with these older white men and some white women because they're like, oh, well, he should have pulled over right away. And I'm like, no, how many times have I pulled over into a well-lit gas station at night? That is like preferred, because the number one reason why law enforcement officers get killed is because they get hit on the side of the road.
Right.
And the officer even said he understood why he pulled over into a well-lit gas station.
Right, exactly.
And it doesn't matter that he's a second lieutenant. It doesn't matter that he's, he was a
black man.
Whatever.
It doesn't
he's
matter.
A black man. Yeah. He's a black man driving a car, so he deserves to get shot or whatever.
And it's sorry, I'm gonna try and not curse.
You're good. I got it. I got your back.
It's disgusting. And to see that, and like, obviously I am a white woman. I have a voice that's a little bit different from my black officer counterparts. And so I try to use that voice because sometimes I'm what someone will listen to, right?
Right.
And
because your voice is different from, your white jarhead male Punisher tattoo kind of guy.
Yeah. And like I look the way I do. Like I'm cute. Like I'm just saying the way
Get
it
it,
is.
Julia.
Yeah.
I'm cute. I'm pretty. I'm skinny. I'm fit. I look like this quote unquote ideal woman, except for like all my tattoos, but those can be covered up. And so when I say something,
It's the septum piercing, I think, these days that gets you, right?
oh yeah, but I can hide that. But like when somebody like me says the exact same thing that my black counterparts are saying, people listen to me and I hate it. But I'll just say it. I'm like, look,
Right.
she said the exact same thing, but you know what? I'm going to say it louder because I don't have to worry about the angry black woman stereotype. I can be an angry white woman. I can be a Karen in this situation. I have
Right.
that privilege. I'm going to take exactly what she said and I'm going to say it louder and meaner and curse you out while I do it.
Boom.
Sorry.
So in this episode, we see the mirrored reaction of how the United States military would treat a white super soldier versus a black super soldier. We see, I mean, like literally, we see, what's his butt?
Isaiah?
I can't even think of his name.
Isaiah.
No, not Isaiah.
Lamar Hoskins?
No, what the
John
Captain
Walker.
America. Johnny Walker.
I will
we
say-
get to see him walk, and then the next scene is Isaiah being like, "They threw me in jail for 30 years for saving the lives of American citizens."
They threw him in jail for doing the exact same thing that Steve Rogers did in First Avenger. He did the
Yes.
exact same thing.
Yeah, going against orders, went in, saved the lives of American
I
soldiers.
really want to know what John Walker got these medals of honor for. I'll tell you that much.
Me too.
I really want to
Because-
know.
I do so like I said,
I think
the last
I think
time
in episode 4, they lead us to believe that it was for an offensive act, not a defensive act. right?
Correct.
correct.
Which were the comments
but-
I made in episode 4 that angered people.
So
Was that he probably did something not so nice to get them.
well, and then the thing is, it's pretty much impossible to get multiple medals of honor for the same event. There have been 5 people in history who have, and they all got one from the Army, one from the Navy for the same event, and they were all weirdly enough during World War I.
Yeah.
So if you're going like off of his like accuracy, that's 3 different events he got that for. And
Well,
for
no, they
example,
specifically say it was the same event, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, which is super weird.
I think that's the point though, is that's how they're
He's this
distinguishing him.
unbelievably
Right, yeah.
exceptional officer.
That's how they're distinguishing him from everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like he's the greatest ever, right?
And the line
He's the
where
best since Steve Rogers.
Right. Because the
disagree, but-
ideals have changed since then.
Oh yeah, so Steve Rogers theoretically was the ideal white American in the 40s.
Right.
But because Steve Rogers was the person he was, meaning he wasn't strong before the super soldier serum, you know, he knew how to like stand up even though he was going to lose all of that. Steve Rogers was not liked by the US government because he disagreed with them. And
Yeah.
I think that that's important too, to realize that Captain Rogers versus Captain Walker. Captain Rogers was like, no, what you're doing is wrong. I don't agree with it. I'm going to go do my own thing. Whereas Captain Walker, the line in his hearing, "You made me," is completely accurate.
Oh my God, that hearing is so powerful. The fact that like they let him speak up and they don't increase the charges or restrain him or anything, which I know would be pretty tough to restrain him. Like he was already a force to be reckoned with prior to the super soldier.
Do they
serum.
know that he took
I
the
don't
super
think
soldier
they
serum?
know.
I don't think
I don't think they know. Yeah, because he made that comment that's like, you don't want to do this. You know, don't make me angry.
You
Kind
won't
of thing.
like me
Yeah,
when
you
I'm
won't like me when I'm angry.
Where's Bruce Banner in all this to be like, you won't like me when I'm angry, bro? I mean, I'm already Professor Hulk, so it's not a problem, but like
But yeah, so and the thing is, like, Steve Rogers on one hand, yeah, he disagreed with the government, whatever, he did his thing, right? But he did his thing, especially when his military service was concerned, he did his thing in order to kill more Nazis, right?
Yeah.
Like, the goal is the same no matter how you get there.
Killing Nazis.
Right, yeah, right. That was a good thing. That was a universally thought of as a good thing. You know, the wars have not been the same since then, and I don't think that's out of my wheelhouse to say that. Is like, war is different than it was in World War II, just in general.
I would agree.
You don't have, the ultimate evil putting on uniforms and going to battle in big lines and with tanks and stuff and being like, yes, we want to kill the world. You know, that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
No.
So John Walker is definitely a soldier, a decorated soldier in a different kind of war.
Yes.
Especially because he's like older, right? Like, I mean, not older. He's like not older specifically. He is probably not a, I enlisted in 2001 kind of guy.
No. He's a West Pointer, and he was definitely what we would call top block. Meaning he probably got promoted early to captain. So currently in the Army, and they changed this, you're a second lieutenant for 18 months. You're a first lieutenant for 2 to 3 years, depending on your component. But 2 years is standard. And then you're a captain for 6. He 100% was a top block the entire time, meaning he got the highest, we call them OERs, officer evaluation reports.
Right.
I don't know. And there's 3 blocks. You have most qualified, not qualified. He was a most qualified the entire time. Guarantee. Yeah. So we call that a top block. And it's actually pretty difficult to get top blocks because your rater only has a certain percentage that they're allowed to give per rank. So if I can only give I rate NCO. So my E6s and E7s, I can give 2, 1 maybe top block a year.
I have a question, Julia. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to talk for a minute, and then I'll let you tell me where I'm wrong and where I'm confused. Lamar is an enlisted man, meaning that he's not an officer, and they go on their first tour together to Afghanistan, and they appear to have very similar results. They're together the whole time. They both complete everything. They both come back together smiling. It is weird to me that, it's racist to me that then John would get promoted continuously up to this captain rank, and Lamar would stay an enlisted man throughout the rest of their career together. Now, am I wrong in saying that? Would that be like a Lamar choice?
You are wrong. So enlisted.
I'm asking because I don't know.
Yeah. So to be a commissioned officer, you have to go through a commissioning process. So for me, that was ROTC. For John Walker, that was West Point. You have like VMI. You have green to gold, which is where you can go from enlisted through the officer candidate school and become an officer. But enlisted, you just join. And you also have to have schooling. You have to have technically it's an associate's degree to become a second lieutenant, but to become a captain, you have to have a bachelor's degree. So with Lamar and with most enlisted, what they do is they enlist when they're young. I was 17 when I enlisted in the military. And there's issues with that because the enlisted population is quite a bit higher of persons of color than the officer population. For example, when I commissioned, there were 2 people of color, 1 Latino, 1 black man, and then 1 woman, which was me. Everyone else was a white man in my commissioning class. So there is this disparity in the officer world versus the enlisted, but generally, a lot of people who start the enlisted process continue up through the enlisted rank. So you have the enlisted ranks, and I feel like they got his rank wrong because in his rank, it looks like he's a first sergeant or a sergeant major.
They have him listed as Sergeant Major Lamar Hoskins.
Yeah, Sergeant Major. So Sergeant Major is the highest enlisted rank you can be. So
that's good then, I think, right?
Yeah. So like, for example, the sergeant major of the Army is a sergeant major. That's the highest enlisted rank you can be. I think it's a little problematic that he is a sergeant major. Not like problematic as in like, because he's a, like, timeline wise, it doesn't make sense. Because if him and John Walker went to high school together, he has not been in the Army long enough to be a sergeant major.
Is there any autonomy in the Army? And I don't know. Any autonomy in the Army to pull out an exceptional soldier for special projects and advance them faster?
Well, advancing them faster doesn't normally happen. Not nowadays. It definitely happened up through Vietnam and Korea.
But I mean, could it be a thing that, like, we don't have a Captain America, obviously.
Right.
But like, if there was somebody pulled from the officer side to be Captain America and then they went into the Army pool, would it make sense that they pulled the most exceptional soldier and just promoted him up to sergeant major?
That's what I was thinking as well.
So, like, they would have to, in today's Army, no. But if they changed the rules and regulations in an
Army where for the past 100 years there's been a Captain America, could that be the case?
I would still say no. But
I guess Falcon wasn't
be
a sergeant major, right?
No.
What was
Falcon
his...
was he's
Air Force, isn't he?
I believe he was Air Force. Let me Google. Sam Wilson.
What rank was Dum Dum Dugan?
He's not yet been in the MCU.
Was he not in Captain America?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he was.
Isn't he one of Captain America's
guys?
guys?
You're right.
Yeah. And he was, I think he was also in Agent Carter, too.
Yeah,
okay,
he
so
was the guy with the
Sam
mustache
Wilson
and the
was an
shotgun, right?
officer. It just says ex-military officer on the...
I didn't know that, like, going into this conversation, I wouldn't have known that there was a distinction between officers and enlisted.
Oh, yeah, there's...
Like, that's how little I know.
Yeah,
he was a corporal, by the way. Dum Dum Dugan was a corporal, allegedly, according to the wiki.
And the rank structure between World War II and now are different.
I believe it.
Ish. Like, how you got ranks and what ranks meant were different in World War II up through Vietnam. Like, you could still get a battlefield commission during those times, so you could become an officer just like, here you go, you're an officer now, which doesn't happen now. So there's, like, the rules, regulations, standards you have to hit for every rank. And you are compared to everybody within your job. So, like, I'm a 35 Alpha, so military intelligence officer. I am compared to everybody within my rank for promotion. It's a little bit easier, like I say easier, it's a little bit more streamlined on the officer side, more automatic, whereas on the enlisted side, it's like based on points and certain things get you a certain amount of points, and there's a point cutoff for where, depending on how many people are within that MOS or that job, you can't, like, you have to have, out of 800, you have to have, for this job, you have to have 380 points, but for this job, you have to have 796 points to be promoted. So there's a lot more structure to it than there used to be, which is why, if we're going off of current Army regulations, it is weird that Lamar Hoskins is a sergeant major because of timeline, because if him and John Walker went to high school together, just that timeline doesn't make sense, because you really wouldn't make E9 in 10 years. And that's being generous.
Again, I feel like that's like part of, you also don't get 3 medals of honor, right? Like, that's
right. Like, this is part of their exceptional nature. And I also think that, like, we see in this episode often that John Walker is very proud. You know, I am Captain America. Where Steve Rogers was always, I'm Steve Rogers. I'm a kid from Brooklyn. He never identified with the Captain America insignia, like, introducing himself.
No. There's a Game of Thrones it's not reference, but I'm referencing a Game of Thrones scene with Joffrey, going, I am the king. And his grandfather is like, if you have to say you're the king, then you're not the king.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think what happens, this is my sort of headcanon of it, is when they approach John Walker to be like, we want you to be the next Captain America. My bet is that he lobbied for, okay, then I want Lamar Hoskins to be a sergeant major and to be my assistant.
I do agree with that. That is something that like has happened. If an officer gets pulled and they need an enlisted counterpart, that's something that happened when I was a captain, right? Or not a captain, a commander. When I was a commander, I got given command and I needed a first sergeant. And I was like, hey, I would like this person to be my first sergeant. And then they were my first sergeant. That is something that it doesn't happen all the time. But especially
for Captain America,
and it's not even really bending the rules. It's something that does happen. And you have people pull people in. I've seen like battalion commanders get command and then go, okay, well, I want this person to come with me. And then they will. They're like, oh, I want you to be... Generals do this too. I had, at my previous job, I worked with a 2-star general. And he was like, hey, I need a new general's aide. What do you think? I was like, no, thank you. But like they do get to... Like that is the thing that does happen. So I do absolutely believe that is what happened with Lamar Hoskins.
So moving on from everything with Lamar, with John Walker, with everything that happened there and sort of the first half of the episode, we get to the sort of second act of this episode where Sam Wilson, Bucky Barnes, back in Louisiana.
Before we get there, we see Bucky not kill Helmut Zemo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like never loaded the gun, right?
I totally forgot about that scene. Thank you for bringing it up. Yes.
Hands Zemo over to the Dora Milaje, and Zemo's like, yeah,
and he goes.
Took the liberty of crossing my name out of your book. I think that we're done here. And Bucky's like, yeah, cool. This is what closure feels like, turns out.
Yes.
And just comes back to Louisiana a different person.
I think we should also, before we get to like Sam and Bucky in Louisiana, we haven't really talked about Sam's conversation with Isaiah. Like we've touched on it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's a very important part of this episode.
I 100% agree. I think that is Marvel stepping in and saying, or Disney stepping in really and saying, like, systemic racism is not a freaking joke. This is what is happening here. Isaiah's life was ruined. He was tested on and wasn't told what it was. He was, punished for helping. And it was the random kindness from he said it was a nurse.
A nurse, yeah.
Yeah.
That got him
faked his
freed.
death.
And now he has to live as a dead man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a powerful story. I teared up. That's the only time I've teared up watching this show.
I think it's them coming out. This show has been talking about several things, but systemic racism has been a huge part of the show, I would say. Probably the main point. And I'm over on TikTok, and some of the people I follow are Black comic book creators. They talk about this, and the amount of gaslighting and derogatory comments some of these creators have gotten until this episode, talking about why this show is about systemic racism and racism in America, is disgusting.
It's gross. And it just proves their point.
Yeah.
So much.
Well, you have Isaiah Bradley say all that, and then 5 minutes later, you have Bucky Barnes come out and say, when Steve and I thought about giving you the shield, we never thought about what it would be like to hand the shield to a black man. And I owe you an apology for that.
And I think that's so important because it does paint this picture of, like, for a lot of my life, even, it was like, I know there are racists out there, but I'm not one of them, so clearly I'm good. And then basically what Disney's saying is, like, it's not enough to be not a racist. You have to be openly anti-racist.
Right.
You have to be fighting against racism.
Well, yeah, and then the thing is, we're all white people here.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm never going to know what it's like to be black.
No.
I'm just not. It doesn't matter what is explained to me. I can empathize, sure, but I'm never going to be scared to go out. Well, I'm never going to be scared to go out at night.
Scared to go out at night
because of the color of my skin.
Right.
I am because of my gender, but that's different. And then that's also an issue within the feminist movement, is the lack of intersectionality. And like, we still don't get it. Like, yeah, as a white woman, I'm more oppressed than a white man, but I don't understand what women of color go through. And that's a problem. And I'm glad that like this, like Marvel coming out and saying this, and they had to, unfortunately, they had to say it in words. Like they couldn't just show it. They had to be
No,
like,
I'm glad that they had to say it in words.
Yeah.
Because if they just showed it, it like, this episode also has a moment that I'm super not thrilled about, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But like they had to come out and say it, because when they don't, there's valid criticism of like, Marvel, you can show it all you want, but until you say it, it doesn't count.
I mean, I said it on this show in our episode that came out last week that we recorded after episode 2 came out. And I was like, a lot of people just want him to say it. And they said it.
Well, but I think what we were talking about then is the point that I want to make, that like they've really been kind of setting us up and queer baiting with Bucky and Sam. And then in this episode, they give Bucky like a weird romantic interest that wasn't there before.
I don't
And
know
there's,
that
like,
that's
no
a
setup for
romantic.
it.
Are you talking about him flirting with Sarah?
I think there's a romantic interest there. Like they've got their moments together, and then Sam is like, "Don't flirt with my sister," which is also being like, "Oh, Sam's not into Bucky." Okay, like,
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's something
I've
I've
harshed
never
my mellow.
I personally, and I know in the comics Bucky is bi, but like from watching the show, granted I'm asexual, so I'm not bisexual, so I could be wrong. I never got the vibe that they were queer baiting. That's just me. Like other people probably have. I'm not denying that. I personally haven't. And then I didn't see him flirting with, I hope him flirting with Sarah is just him flirting to be a jerk to Sam.
I don't think that was it either. Like,
No, because they've made it a point out of this show to like be like, oh, Bucky has a hard time with women because he's from the 40s. And Ethan, I'll let you make your point.
I don't think it has anything to do with him actually wanting to pursue a relationship with Sarah. I think that they're literally just showing that Bucky's a person now all of a sudden.
Yeah, because
Like he
see at the
can
beginning-
smile and laugh and have a nice conversation out of nowhere, basically.
yeah, because like you see in episode 1, it's very awkward. He doesn't really he hasn't come into himself as a person. He's still he still feels like he's the Winter Soldier, and he still has that demon on him. And I think working with Sam and working against this new Captain America has given him a sense of purpose that's outside of the Winter Soldier. And I think it shows a growth because you kind of see it with him and Sam, because they're very much like, well, we're not partners. We're just coworkers. We had the same friend, and now that we're guys with the same friend, and now that friend's gone, so now we're just guys. But like you see that banter kind of go from episode 2, which is when they first interacted, to episode 5, and you see this growth in Bucky. And I think it's just them showing his growth around people and feeling like he has an identity outside of, I used to be the Winter Soldier. That's my thought.
I agree. And what I really love about both of these characters and this show is I feel like all too often, in order to like develop as a human, you have to come in with like no wisdom and then develop wisdom. But I think Bucky and Sam both bring a lot to the table, but still have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
And I think that's so fascinating, because I consume a lot of like young adult type stuff where it's just like, oh, it's a coming of age, becoming an adult. But these guys are already like established grown-ups, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is not to say that there's not credence to the claims of queer baiting from the show by any means.
Oh, no. I absolutely agree.
Absolutely. Just like from the narrative perspective, I do think that scene works just to show Bucky sort of being a person, right? Having normal feelings that people have towards a woman of color, again, for the second time in this show, which I think is interesting for a white dude from the 40s.
Who, when introduced in the 40s, is with 2 white women.
Yeah.
I do also really appreciate that like little interlude in Louisiana because this episode was so heavy and
Yes.
so much, and then you have this fun little jaunt between Sam and Bucky where they're getting yelled at by Sarah because they're fixing something she didn't want them to fix, and he's just pulling something off a truck, and I was like, oh, I needed this. This episode needed this moment. Thank you.
And Bucky still got some stuff to work out because Sam's like, why didn't you just use the arm? And he's like, right-handed.
I forget it's there.
Like, no, you don't, James. Like, you feel like that's part of the guide and not you. Like,
Well, because he looked like he lost his identity when the Dora Milaje took it off.
right. I will say the one scene I did, I loved a lot. A scene I did love from this show is like in the first episode or the second episode or whatever, we see John Walker throwing the shield into the trees, and we're like, oh man, like can regular people do that? Or is this guy just that exceptional? And no, he's not. Sam can do it too.
I would argue that Sam is also exceptional. So.
Yeah, but he's
Sam's
not a super soldier either. Like,
well, neither was
I did
John Walker when that.
I know,
was going
but
on.
like,
And the only other people in the whole MCU that we've seen successfully throw the shield, Nat throws it to Steve in Age of Ultron. Like, she's riding a motorcycle and throws it up to him, and Hawkeye throws it to Steve in Age of Ultron, which, like, if anyone can throw the shield, it's Hawkeye. Like, the dude never misses. That's, like, his thing. He's definitely not Captain America, though.
Hawkeye?
He just went and slaughtered a
yeah,
bunch of people.
no. So yeah, Sam Wilson fully taking up the mantle. That's got to be
don't
what's in
know.
the. It's got to be what's in the
This
box,
whole
right?
what's in the box thing, this is the worst. This is the worst cliffhanger in all of the MCU shows. It's like, oh, what's in the box?
I don't
It's a
know.
suit.
It's a suit.
new
Yeah,
suit.
it's from
Yeah.
Wakanda.
I don't know if he'll take up the mantle of a
Black
Captain
Panther.
America.
I don't think so.
Not that one. I don't know if he will.
Although
I thought
Like-
that was pretty
Sam Wilson-
clear from this
Well-
episode
Sam
that
Wilson,
he is
yeah,
now
he
Captain
definitely-
America.
Yeah, that's what they were saying.
Right, but
He leaves space on the left side of the road for Cap to run past.
yeah, that's so sad. It's so cute. I
Yeah.
loved it. I don't know. I was talking with one of my friends last night because I rewatched the episode. Well, I rewatched parts of the episode because there were parts I was just like, I can't rewatch this right now. Maybe later, but right now, not working for me. But yeah, I was of the belief that he was going to take up the mantle of Captain America, but listening to her and her argument where she's like, well, maybe he'll be Blackbird, which is another counterpoint he's had in the comics. Because after the conversation with Isaiah because you had the conversation with Isaiah and then the conversation with Sarah,
his sister.
which were kind of opposing. And so I think
Right.
he is going to spend probably in the next episode debating whether he wants to be the new Captain America or not. I think that's going to be a big part. Maybe it'll end with him taking up the Captain America mantle. I don't think he'll take it up early in the episode, though.
Well, I mean, they're going to tell us what's in the box for sure. But
Oh, yeah.
the thing for me is that he leaves the wings behind. He walks out of the room with the shield in his arm, saying, "Nah, you keep them."
I think that
Torres will be the next Falcon.
Well, yeah, and he is in the comics, which
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Torres is. I
People
think he's the
stand
current,
Torres too hard. I'll tell you that much.
I think
as
he's
far
cute.
as his value in this show, he's done
I know,
so
but
little.
people be like, "Where is my Torres content?" And I'm like, "There's
Yeah, I
so
don't-
much going on, guys."
I think people want him to be like Jimmy Woo, and I'm sorry, Jimmy Woo was so much more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I do think Torres is cute, and he's like a little adorable. Like, oh, I want him. I want more of him. He's adorable.
He's gonna get the super soldier serum.
Oh
I
God,
don't
not
think
again.
so. I don't.
Oh, that's not going away. They're gonna keep bringing that narrative up. They'll find some other person, if not Isaiah, then someone
Yeah.
that's got it.
Oh,
or
speaking
Isaiah will
of
be like,
Isaiah, I meant to bring this up forever ago. Them experimenting on him. Can we just talk about how that has actually happened with
Yeah.
the military? The Tuskegee experiments where they injected black soldiers with or black people and others with syphilis and told them it was like I think they told him it was tetanus. Like, that's experimenting on Black individuals is not new. And I'm glad that they talked about it, because I think that a lot of people just don't understand, like, how we get modern gynecology is from experiments on slaves. And it's like, I'm glad they brought it up, because that needs to be said. And I was never taught that in school, right? I learned that on my own because my father...
I learned that right now.
Yeah.
I learned that just now.
Yeah, they've been experimenting on Black people and people of color for forever, which is why, besides the fact that people of color are treated very differently in the medical system, a lot of minority communities are very wary of medicine and medical professionals because of that generational trauma. And so I'm glad they brought it up in this like fictional way, because at least somebody's talking about it now. Because the only reason I learned about it is because my dad is very into history and very much opposed of the whitewashing of history. So much so that, like, when I learned about the Civil War in the South, and, you know, we were told it wasn't about slavery in school, my dad was like, oh, honey, here's some books.
Yes, it was.
Please read them. It was about slavery.
Yeah, states' rights to choose whether or not we had slaves.
Right. And my dad was like, yeah, states' rights for what? Slaves. Here's books. Please read. And my dad was very much against the whitewashing of history, which is, you know, interesting for a white man. But that's the only reason why I know a lot of the things I know, is because my father made a point to teach it to us. The school system didn't. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Sharon's the power broker.
Yeah.
Or there's not a power broker, but it's still Sharon. Like,
Yeah,
Sharon.
it's still, whatever it is still Sharon.
Yeah,
whatever
whatever
name
it
they end
is,
up giving her.
It's
Yeah.
still Sharon.
Bad.
Like,
Yeah,
my inclination is there is
Called
a
it.
power broker that doesn't exist, but Sharon's in charge. That's my personal theory. But
Yeah,
whatever
she'll be
it
the
is, she's
villain in
charge.
season 2 or whatever.
Yeah. Like, have you seen Revenge with Emily Van Camp?
No.
Okay. It's a show about this, like, rich girl taking revenge. Anyway, that character came out in that scene, and I was like, ooh, you're playing that character again. I see you.
You're evil. You're bad. You don't like the system at all. You are not like Cap, where you think that S.H.I.E.L.D. was wrong, but we could work to make things better. You just are jaded.
It's almost like she got cheated on by Captain America with her grandmother.
Her
It's almost
aunt.
like that.
Great
Or
aunt.
aunt, whatever. Great aunt, whatever.
Little
Doesn't
less
matter.
creepy.
Doesn't matter.
Just a smidge less creepy.
Right. Okay. Well, you know what? It's almost like Steve Rogers went back in time to cheat on her.
I still don't like that ending for Steve Rogers.
I do like that they found a way to kill Steve Rogers. He's dead, right? Like,
So that's
you
my
see him
other
in
question.
Endgame.
Yeah, he aged
That's
to
my
death.
other
Yeah.
question. Like, because this isn't that far from, like, he didn't look like he was, like, going to die in 3 seconds when he came
Right,
back.
Joe Biden's still in office. Like, they look the same. That was the joke.
But, like, is he just sitting in a retirement home somewhere or hanging out?
No, I think he probably died. I don't think he would have, like, come back to that point.
Or there is like some real, you know, panache to being like, yeah, Steve came back and he said don't bother him, so we're not going to. Period.
No, I'm pretty sure he's dead.
No, I feel like
I'm pretty sure he's dead.
I
but
feel like he has to be dead. But, like,
I think if you're Steve Rogers and you reach like the age of whatever, however old he is, as a super
Very.
soldier, right? Because he was like what 18 when he joined the army, then did his time in the army, and then came back and then did like 15 more years here, and then went back and lived another 80 years.
80 years.
Yeah, it's like he's old as hell. I feel like at that point, if you're a super soldier, you can just stop living. Like Steve Rogers to be able to just be like, yes, it is my time now. I have decided, and then just like,
I mean, some people
Go
do
to
that
sleep.
in real life.
Yeah.
My, like, great-grandma just decided when she was going to die because she was determined she wasn't going to be 100. And so, like, 5 days before her 100th birthday, she was like, I'm done. And she just died.
Yeah. So
Oh my god.
I get a lot of people were like, oh, show us Steve's funeral or whatever. Like, no, nobody needs that. Nobody needs that.
No, I think like that was like the theory was that the first episode was going to open on Steve's funeral, but
I truly think for these shows that they got a focus group together and said, we're going to make a show about Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes after the end of Avengers Endgame.
so
And they were like, what do you
Sebastian-
think? Sorry, go ahead.
Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie were the ones who suggested them doing a show together.
Okay.
Funny enough.
Yeah, I bet they were sitting there like, how do we continue to get the Marvel money?
Anyway, yeah, what it seems like with these shows is they were like, we're going to make a show about Wanda Maximoff and Vision. We're going to make a show about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And they asked the focus group, like, what do you think is going to happen in those shows? And then they took everything those people wrote down and were just like,
threw it out the window.
The opposite.
They're like,
Got
yeah,
it.
None of these things got it.
Yeah. Subvert expectations.
Let's
That's the
tackle
key to narrative.
trauma and systemic racism.
I'm really glad that they're doing this.
Me too.
They did change some concepts of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't know if you guys have talked about this. There was supposed to be like a pandemic situation.
Oh yeah,
And
that's bad.
they
Can't
cut
do that.
it. They cut it because this was filmed before COVID-19. Because
Wrong.
I thought there was supposed to be some sort of pandemic situation.
It was no, it was delayed because they were not done filming it.
Oh, was that?
Yeah.
Regardless, they cut that storyline.
So it was supposed to come out first, but they were like, the production schedule when you look at this has been crazy, because like they're filming these things out of order completely. Like WandaVision came out on time,
but first, and it was supposed to
first
come
it
out
wasn't supposed to be
last,
first,
right?
but it was done first. So WandaVision's been done forever, like since around the time when they finished Endgame.
Yeah, because
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they were still working on,
Well,
even
'cause
though it was
they-
supposed to come out last summer. They were like, March, they were like,
Delayed.
shit, we got to film this thing. What are we going to do?
Yeah, well,
So I don't know.
With WandaVision, they didn't they finished it during COVID, which you can tell in the final episode. If you've watched the Legend, what is it?
The
is it
making
Legend?
of?
Making
Yeah.
of
Gallery, whatever it is.
The last episode was definitely made during COVID because everybody just happens to be pretty far apart, and then in the behind the scenes you see everybody wearing masks off screen. So at least the outdoor scenes were filmed that way.
No idea. But yeah, they're making them all, in some random order. I guess the Loki show is done.
I'm excited.
They at some point had filmed the Hawkeye show like during the winter. So
Oh yeah, I remember Haley Steinfeld posting on Instagram being like, wearing my Hawkeye costume.
I remember Haley Steinfeld being very bad at hiding the fact that she was working on the show. Like
This particular show.
it was constantly on TikTok, just like, here's Haley Steinfeld walking through my city. There she is, getting in her car, getting coffee, driving away.
Yeah, that's why I'm not an actress, because I don't think I could keep stuff like that a secret.
I definitely could not. They'd be like, Tyler, do you want to play Spider-Man? And I would be like, absolutely. I'm telling everyone I know.
Well,
They'd be
how
like, you
they
can tell your mom.
Well,
I'd be
that's
like,
a Spider-Man
everyone's my
thing,
mom.
isn't it?
Yeah.
well, I think they told Tom Holland that he had the part like very close to when he filmed.
It was 3 days before they filmed
like,
Civil War.
Ridiculously, like, oh yeah, you're Spider-Man. Be at work in 2 days.
Yeah.
Do you think you can stop blacking out my scripts now? No.
There's
No,
like
absolutely. We're not going to do that.
one of my favorite creators does like random skits of what she thinks should happen during these like over the top skits, and she does one she did one before WandaVision and one before Falcon and the Winter Soldier, of where they lock Tom Holland in a basement,
Like, there's this.
which is my favorite.
It's even happened recently where they were asking Tom Holland, like, oh, is Alfred Molina going to be in the new Spider-Man movie? And he was like, not that I know. This is news to me. What are you talking about? And then yesterday, the article comes out where Alfred Molina's like, yeah, I'm playing Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2 in the new Spider-Man movie.
I really don't think that Tom Holland is as loose-lipped as people make him out to be, because
I think it's a character.
Yeah, because he was like, yeah, they didn't tell me anything about Endgame.
I think it's a
They
character
told me nothing.
now.
Yeah, I think now it is. But like his line, his line to Tony Stark explained the entire plot of what happened. I'm like, you absolutely had to know what was going on.
But
Right.
like, I think that originally when he started leaking things for Homecoming, people were like, "Oh, sweet bean, he wants to give us the information," and Disney was like, "Yeah, totally. We should capitalize on this and leak information through him when we want to leak information."
Well, because like when they announced or when they showed the Endgame poster, the Instagram
That was
post that he did about it,
100% staged.
staged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he was like, "Oh, I wonder what's in this poster tube," and he like opens it up in front of the camera. He's like, "Oh, it's white. Oh, it's the Endgame poster."
And then the note from Mark Ruffalo, because Mark Ruffalo is one who's also accidentally leaked things too.
They even made that video with the name reveal for the new Spider-Man movie where he's like, "Oh, I wonder if when they're going to tell me what the name is." And then
Right.
Zendaya's like, "They're not, Tom." And then they walk past the billboard or whatever, and it's like Spider-Man,
Yeah.
No Way Home or whatever it's called.
Anyway, this has been Bacon and Eggs Talks Falcon and the Winter
Yeah.
Soldier with Army Officer Julia Kendall. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thanks for
got-
inviting me.
We got one episode left of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We'll see how that goes.
And then we might take a break from the Monday show. We might not. Who knows?
Y'all, I was wrong about this show. Turns out, I thought this was going to be a hot pile of trash. It has been fantastic. I've enjoyed every episode. At this point, I checked his title list yesterday, but like I'm not super stoked for a Hawkeye show. I don't really care about the character of Hawkeye. I can only assume that after that's over, I'm going to get Jeremy Renner's face tattooed on my face. Like Disney is coming for specifically my neck with all of these. They've gotten me to like Bucky Barnes. They've gotten me to like Boba Fett. They've gotten me to like Wanda Maximoff. Like what can happen? I have no idea. Maybe I'll get turned on Sharon Carter at some point. Not Sharon Carter, Peggy Carter. Who knows? Anyway, I'm just going to stop making predictions for what I think the Marvel shows are going to be like because I'm wrong in a good way. Here's hoping Black Widow is also sick. I don't know. We'll find out.
Florence Pugh can make no mistakes.
We'll see.
I really hope so because it's a female writer, female director. So I have high hopes.
I want it to be fantastic.
Regardless, I'm spending my money on it. However,
Yeah,
it
I will
comes
vote
out.
with my dollar either way.
Back and forth on that
Thanks
one.
for listening.
But yeah. All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye.